The standard that exists nowhere for anybody else other than Israelis.
How did it come to this? As you likely know, there's a big brouhaha going on the interwebs between Hasan Piker, Ethan Klein, and iDubbbz. Now, this is a very nuanced situation that has a lot of interwoven parts, and today I would just like to explain this situation and kind of give my breakdown of that. Our main character here today is Ethan Klein. Ethan started out his life on YouTube with his wife Ela on the H3H3 YouTube channel, which was kind of like a YouTube commentary channel, kind of a skit channel that did various goofs and gaffes, and like many YouTubers, they eventually transitioned into the podcast. And while the podcast started out as more of a guest-driven show with various YouTubers being brought on for their commentary, it eventually transitioned into more of a topical show. And their first big show in this new format was Frenemies with Trisha Paytas. So Trisha is a very interesting human, and as it will become glaringly obvious as it goes on, the H3H3 podcast has just the God-given talent of turning Ethan's friends into Ethan's enemies. And this would happen with Trisha as the two would split acrimoniously at the jarring end of the Frenemies podcast. And this is a relationship dynamic that would be followed up with our next character, Hasan Piker. So Hasan, if you don't know, is a left-leaning streamer who talks mostly about politics, and at some point he thought that it would be a great idea to form another left-leaning podcast talking mostly about politics with Ethan on the H3H3 podcast. However, after an episode on the Gaza war, Hasan and Ethan came into such a row that they decided that they could not work together. And so ever since then, they've been battering back and forth at each other like middle school girls on the playground. And so with all of that information kind of, just boiling in the background, this brings up the catalyst of this talk, which is the new Content Cop by iDubbbz. Content Cop was, of course, the most popular series that had previously been on iDubbbz channel. I say previously because not so long ago, iDubbbz took all of his Content Cop videos off of his channel, saying that he didn't like the format and found it exploitative, that he was kind of punching down at times at some of these creators. Certainly one of the big events that helped him change his mind on this was, of course, the giant internet backlash that came around whenever his wife started up in OnlyFans, which incredibly angered his base. And after this fallout, he's remained largely kind of underneath the waves on the internet. He had still been posting some on that main channel and also in some of his alternative channels, but for the most part, this is the first time that people have thought about iDubbbz in years. And the reason why this is such an eventful thing for a very specific niche of the internet is that presumably iDubbbz and Ethan were fairly good friends up until this point. They were in each other's videos and they seemed very, kind of co-branded in a way. Of course, you can watch the full Content Cop and the accompanying reactions and Content Deputy, but I really can just tell you that this entire situation boils down not to politics, but just the bored, emotional control. So ostensibly, the reason, the original sin for this entire video's existence is that Hasan and Ethan had a disagreement over the Gaza war. Which brings up a point that I don't know if anyone else has talked about. Were they not on the same page, before they got started? This blows my mind. Not even that they would disagree, but were you not aware of this disagreement? Were you not, cognitive of the fact that this is something that will eventually come up? And where do we all stand on this? So at least, I know if I want to start this project with you. So aside from this, just mind melt of an original decision, I have to say that it seems that Hasan has been injured the least by this entire interaction, because you could at least say on the outside that Hasan has not changed his position on what is going on in the Gaza war. And a lot of Ethan's issues from that community seem to be that he's not fully committed on the Israel or Palestine side of that equation. But the true issue that Ethan seems to be facing is not from this single disagreement, it's from the fact that Ethan has seemingly no emotional regulation. I'm not even going to bring up the half dozen other creators that Ethan happens to be beefing with currently over this issue, related issues, or completely other problems that have resulted around this H3H3 podcast. Ethan really does just kind of seem to be one of those people that does not function very well in a podcast unfiltered environment, and he's concocted a situation in which he's like desperately over his head but continues to march forward. Now with that being said, I don't think that there's anything keeping Ethan from just, not talking about politics. I don't think that there's anything that's, pushing him to have, the hot takes on these situations. He can in fact always just, stop talking about them and it just kind of goes away. A solution that I don't know if he knows exists. iDubbbz, for his part, has kept most of his issues with Ethan away from the political and more towards the personal. However, I think that iDubbbz may in fact be in the worst situation of all because he's truly a man without a home. He lost the majority of his fan base after the OnlyFans debacle. And this new position that he's taking isn't exactly very likely to bring him that many new followers. So I have to say, I don't think that anybody is right. And I think that they're all wrong in their own unique and stupid way. But if you would like to find out more information about the background behind iDubbbz, you can watch this video right here.